Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome you to the special roundtable discussion on top doers, dreamers, and drivers in artificial intelligence on the occasion of International Women's Day being held today. Every year on March 8th, International Women's Day is celebrated to acknowledge the economic, political, social, and cultural achievements of women from all walks of life. The day is celebrated globally, highlighting the struggles and achievements of women. On this special occasion, ETGovernment is pleased to interact with the well-known faces in the public and private sectors who chose to challenge by making their mark. On this special occasion, ETGovernment is pleased to interact with the well-known faces in the public and private sectors who choose to challenge by making their mark in the emerging technologies, especially in artificial intelligence. The Women's Day, the ETGovernment applauds all the women who are constantly raising the bar for others to follow the suit. Supporting and celebrating women's rights is a year-round responsibility, but on the International Women's Day, it's even more important to take a stand for women's equality. To lead the discussion forward, I'm joined by senior government officials and a senior professional working in the private sector. I'm pleased to welcome Thara, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs from Government of India, Meeta Rajivlochan, Member Secretary, National Women's Commission from Government of India, and finally, Shweta Khurana, Director APJ, Government Partnerships and Initiatives, Global Government Affairs Group from Intel. My best wishes to all our guests today on the occasion of the International Women's Day. You have been working in the public sector for nearly 2.5 to 3 decades. You have held many positions in Gujarat state government and also in the government of India. You are constantly raising the bar in all your assignments. Ma'am, just would like to know your initial remarks over the role of technology in making a difference in your assignments and women equality and women empowerment in artificial intelligence. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I think basically the simple nature of the job, that is, you are dealing not with a few thousand, few lakhs, you are dealing with crores and crores of people, you are dealing with, working with billions and billions of dollars or, trillions of rupees. So that itself pushes you to actually, the only way you can work is with technology. Without technology, that kind of scale is not possible. So yes, when I started, I have used extensively technology in my work. When I say extensively, I'm taking that term very, very responsibly. Not that, in a given government system, when I worked in, say, as a municipal commissioner, Ahmedabad, we used to have this whole system of people going to their wards early in the morning at 6:30, and if they click a photograph, GIS or GPS enabled, so their presence is at least noted. So there was no need for us to go and mark an attendance. It started from that small move to looking at the temperature of the hot mix which was going into the road online. So that the road flakiness index of the road material, raw material, and the temperature of the raw material, all these things have been managed online. There were so many roads which would go on in a city of Ahmedabad, which has around 6.5 million population then, and maybe going up to 7.2 billion as we talk. So it's without technology, I don't think it was anywhere possible. You had around 2,000 waste collection vehicles, and all of them had to be going to point of interest and then logging their presence in, so that you know which vehicle went where, how long it stopped, and how the waste got collected. From there to putting sensors to the pipelines to ensure that the water which reaches the distribution station is adequate and actually measured and projected onto the public forum, so that there is no manipulation by valve operators to push water to one distribution station or the other within the city. I think it has been a wide range of experiences to a smart classes where we sort of, for the first time, municipal schools, we use satellite channel to make smart lessons available through teachers of the system. It was no procurement of this thing from outside. Teachers became who would project, who would record and put it to the system, and there were syllabus which was broken. The whole Ahmedabad from 6 to 8 had the same timetable, same syllabus and same lessons going on. At the same time, the teacher would be there to ensure that there is an after smart class work which is also done. So there was a combination of what can come excellently through smart class and what can be done for the emotional touch by the teachers, and that could work. So I think technology, without technology, probably it is all not possible. I mean, it's just not possible to have a governance without technology. If somebody says I can do it, it be possible. So technology and therefore artificial intelligence, these are very, very integral part of what you do today. That is my state level work in GIDC as MD Gujarat Industrial Development Corporation. We had to manage land parcels and allot land on lease. I mean, I could do it sitting in Japan. I could show the land parcel to the Japanese company and allot it, at least, in principle, to them there. And it was even Japanese were thrilled to look at it, because we had completely took every data online, and also the parcels, and we had high resolution satellite images. So I think artificial intelligence riding on satellite technology and IoT based systems is something which can change the way you work. So the latest is in Amrut 2, when we had to give water supply to all the cities. 4,813 cities are there, and they keep moving this way, that way. I mean, it will go to 5,000 as I talk. These cities have been created city pages. We have made data sets which they have to enter, and each city for that, they're very thrilled. They have a page for themselves on Amrut portal, and they're filling the page. And as they fill the page, the artificial intelligence of the system itself throw up the gaps. They don't need to calculate the gaps, it throws up the gaps. And once that is called city water balance plan, that is the water budgeting of the city. I think first time it is happening that I have data about around 4,300 cities already on my portal, another 500 in progress. So I think this kind of data was never available. And this data is also be woven into an intelligence system where when they put up projects to cover those gaps, as they put up projects and say these many taps cover connections will be given, or these many sewer connections will be given, the gap gets reduced. And at the end of their planning, it shows how much you're talking about and how much has been done. And if there are abnormally, different numbers, the data is thrown up that is it true, is it correct? So we are able to query so much because of an intelligence system. So I think this will be mother of all initiatives, that when we are looking at cities, we had 4,800 cities signing MOU online digitally in one day, 24 hours. And that pushed us to think that we can do a paperless mission. We have taken up a paperless mission, and we have now today the data and action plans coming online, and completely online. Paperless means it's really paperless. So I think this is where I'm very thrilled about. And the other thing which we are doing, which I want to tell you is, see, when we do some projects, we give money to third party to check outcomes. So we thought, let's create gigs and get the college kids doing it. So we have said that outcomes, that is, if you have tap connections, sewer connections working, if you upload the photographs, the city should upload the photographs and the data about it, then it will be, sample will be checked by students. 5 connections checking will be packaged into a gig, put online, and the student has to pick up, check it. He may essentially pick up something of his neighborhood, it is pin code based, and then go and check it and then upload the photographs. And if you find there is matching photographs, the relative amount of money per connection will be given to the city. And whatever checking is doing, will do a DBT of 500 rupees for that gig which he performed. So I think the kind of, and the data of NRSC, again, of the water bodies which we are using, that all the water bodies of the cities are being mapped and shown to the city managers, along with a layer of AI, which says that if there is a construction going on and the surface area getting reduced, that is also pushed in temporal data form to the cities. So they know that last year this was not there. This year, actually, there's more construction on the banks and there's a reduction. So I think technology, I mean, it's impossible to do what should be. No question of, in fact, it's like almost breathing. You need to have technology when you're dealing with scales like this. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Over to Shweta, Khurana. Ma'am, you are responsible for driving strategic programs and initiatives with the governments across Asia, Pacific, and Japan. Your focus is on building PPP programs to develop artificial intelligence human capital to meet your organization Intel's global commitment to make technology inclusive and empower 30 million people with the AI skills for current and future requirements. I just would like to, on this special occasion, your initial remarks on International Women's Day. And my question is, how do you see women empowerment in India, especially in artificial intelligence? Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. And let me start by wishing everyone a great Women's Day. I think Thara ma'am kind of explicitly explained that how technology is so essential when we are talking about managing or governing a country like India. So I think technology and women have similar personality traits: resilience, determination, strength, and I'm not mentioning intelligence because I think that's an inherent part. In fact, they can be perfectly symbiotic. Both can produce results that exceed what either one can achieve alone. Now, we see more and more women than ever joining the table. And it's not just about having a seat on the table, but equally important to have the courage to share one's authentic voice. Personally, for me, it's inspiring to be a part of this change. But we can't forget the journey which has happened for people and everybody to reach where they are today, and the path that still lies ahead. There's a long way ahead. It's so amazing to be part of an organization that drives this change. At Intel, our focus is to expand digital readiness for everyone. We continue to be excited for the future, specifically helping more girls and women break the barriers and enter this amazing world of science, technology, and artificial intelligence.
Ma'am, welcome to the panel discussion. My first question to you, ma'am. You have been working in the public sector for nearly 3 decades. You have held many positions in the state government of Maharashtra, and today you are in a government of India position. You are currently constantly raising the bar in your assignments. Your initial remarks on the role of technology in making a difference in your assignments and women's equality, if you can, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Radhakrishna. What I would like to say is that I prefer to see women not as passive recipients of technology, but as active users of technology. And to my mind, emerging technologies like artificial intelligence have an enormous role to play in creating a more inclusive society for women and allowing them to realize their full potential. So when we talk about active users of technology, let's look at women entrepreneurs, women in the workforce. In recent years, we have heard a great deal of public discourse about the declining presence of women in the workforce in India. And I think we often tend to lose sight of the numbers. So some basic numbers are that today 1 in 5 MSMEs enterprises in India is run by women. And the numbers are roughly 1.23 crore enterprises in India are run by women. When you look at manufacturing enterprises, the figures are even more startling. 45% of all manufacturing enterprises, that is 1 out of every 2 manufacturing enterprise, we're talking about MSMEs, are run by women. So that's 1 out of 2. So when we look at these kinds of figures, we see what the enormous role of artificial intelligence would be in empowering these women, in enabling them to use the tools of data mining, which is the foundation for all artificial intelligence, to improve their businesses or to reform their business ideas. So like just in the past 1 year, in the National Commission for Women, we collaborated with the Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, to run an online training program for aspiring entrepreneurs and for women who are already running businesses. We were surprised by the enthusiasm of their response. And in the course of the interaction, the one major thing which emerged was that nearly all of them recognized how empowering information is. They were all very anxious to learn about how to use data analytics, e-commerce, digital platforms to improve their businesses. And many of them said that while the lockdown was hard for many of them, at the same time, it opened new windows of opportunity. And many of them said that one of the reasons that they joined the course was in order to learn about how could they find emerging markets. So I think it's over here that the value of big data comes in. And the data analytics would enable all these women entrepreneurs to find out about emerging markets, to find out about new markets. India is a huge and a diversified country. There are market niches of all kinds throughout. So, and these are small enterprises, which also means that they are flexible. They would find it relatively easy to change their output to suit whatever the customer requirements are. But they need to understand what those customer requirements are. Now, there's two ways in which they could do it, either by using chatbots and then doing data analytics, or alternatively by mining blocks of data that are made available on the internet. And here I think it is the role of large institutions, government departments. Almost every government department has access to large amounts of data. So the first prerequisite of artificial intelligence is that that data be anonymized and be put in the public domain for the benefit of users. And this is something that has been done in many other countries in the world. We are just beginning. One of the reasons why countries in the West are able to use artificial intelligence and data mining so extensively is that they have been digitizing data, primary records, for many, many decades now, and those are mature societies. So now they're able to mine that data. But we may be late arrivals on the scene, but we can go up the learning curve very fast, provided we see people as active users and not just as passive recipients. It is, you empower them by making data available and showing them how it could be used. So we were actually surprised by the strength of the response. There's enormous appetite over there. And I think that a great deal could be done over here to leverage the power of artificial intelligence to help all these women entrepreneurs. So now that is one aspect, but there are many other aspects. As we go on, I'll talk more about that.
Ma'am, when you joined the public sector, I mean, it was initial days, awareness was not very high. Today, if you see, after 3 decades, the technology awareness is growing in private sector. Many women are taking career prospects and opportunities in the technology. I just want to know, being spent longer time in government, how do you see the awareness levels of technology and I mean, definitely artificial intelligence among the women employees in the government sector? Some of your views on that, ma'am.
I think, see, it is very important that technology, thankfully, is gender neutral. So, it caters to all the way you use the technology for varies. But usually what I see personally is when you work in government systems, many a times when you're working throughout the day, I would have noticed that I had not met a single woman employee. So the number of people in this space, whether workspace, in certain sectors, women are equally there, like 50% or something. But in certain sectors, when I see, like, for example, municipal corporation kind of jobs, there we will see less of women in the clerical and engineers. I see many. When I see a woman engineer, I feel so happy, because in public sector, you essentially see very less women engineers. So I think there is a inequality in that, in the sense that people, it's not that they could not have come over. I don't think there was a tradition of getting into those roles. Slowly, which is changing. But I think technology is being adopted by everybody equally. And in fact, technology can help women to be mainstreamed. For example, as I told you, if you are asking the work done to be checked by some youth, you can also do it online with women. Youth, we are actually taking college students because there is a link with the college. So when we are doing pilot, we don't want or I mean, we want some control over the group which we are working with. But the moment if that works, the DBT works and the gigs, photograph and matching works, AI system of the system works, and I'm convinced, I will say, okay, any woman, poor woman can pick up this task. This could be not only this task of the washing or the tap properly, what frequencies and all. It could be any work. We are just changing the way the government works. You onboard people as partners for small chores of the government, and then pay them for what they are doing so that it becomes a livelihood creation for them. So I think women can be mainstreamed, more mainstreamed using technology. And I think women take to technology very easily. There is no question of any issue of this thing. There's a gap. Adoption is very good. But inherently, if you have lesser number of women in the system, then that is something which you can only correct time. And I think it's happening now. A lot more women are coming into the sectors. And number two, if you get into gig models, then anybody who is capable of accessing a system can get into a government system and work. That essentially removes all the hindrances or barriers which is there. So I think it's a very important thing to get technology so easy that at the click of a button, a woman should be able to pick up a gig or a job and do it for a government and reflect on it and talk about it. That will be the best. Instead of saying that there should be awareness, nobody is going to take out time in an urban setup, come and speak to us because there is awareness. If you write a little money on the task, then they can do a livelihood at the same time participation in the government program easily. So I think it's a very important thing. I see a lot of women in startups. I see a lot of women now, I mean the girls, I mean rather, very interesting things. I don't think anymore that gender stereotype applies where a girl has to be this way. I think we see it across because of the technology reaching every smartphone and every phone in rural areas also. Today, the girls in rural areas are much more and talk about their lives than they were earlier. Of course, technology also does the other part, but I think that's part of the game. I mean, if boys were getting spoiled, let girls also get spoiled, and that's okay. I mean, that's something which the parents with the society should take care of, that technology reaching. But I think it's the awareness levels are almost equal in every corner of the world today. The talk, I think the best is Korean drama. I don't know. It's like the Korean drama is watched by the globe, which I could never imagine. Nowadays they talk about, the girls talk. So this is how it is penetrated, whether it is entertainment, whether it is value system, whether it is talking openly. I think bringing out rights, everything has been perfectly, penetrating every mind space, whether female or male, and more so girls, because they were sort of isolated because of lack of technology earlier. I think it's really doing wonders. The way we will align it matters. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Over to Shweta, Khurana. When you bring more than 2 decades of core value to the system in private sector, you have almost 23 years experience in driving trusted partnerships and relationship with the government, development agencies, academia, communities around the world. You also created smart models to address societal challenges, accelerate thought leadership, enable business growth through strategic planning. I mean, today, girls or women in are high dreams in building career in technology. How do you see their participation in artificial intelligence? Does Intel have any mission training women, especially making them artificial intelligent future ready?
So there are lots of studies, especially in the past few years, which have shown us that how emerging technology like artificial intelligence has the potential to add billions of rupees to India's economy and really act like an enabler for creating a better sustainable future. But there's also a growing skill gap in the market. And we are focusing on building digitally skilled workforce. Now, when we look at workforce readiness, I feel women have always had more to prove, and in that, more to give to the process. Now, working in artificial intelligence has been really rewarding to see the shift happening, where girls are becoming more and more engaged with AI and building their own journey along with it. So it's not just learning new skills, but also building their aspirations as to what they would do with the skills learned. And it's extremely encouraging for us when we see young girl children as Pohabi Chakrabarti from a northeastern state who was awarded the Bal Puruskar 2022 just this year recently for innovation for using AI skills to solve a problem for budding athletes who have limited resources in her own community, in and around her. Now, and there are many such examples like this. So I think as a society, we are rewarded the most when women have a meaningful engagement in all sectors of life, whether that's private sector, governance. But when everyone benefits collectively, then everyone becomes a driving force for change. And the same can be said about women empowerment and an emerging technology like AI. I for sure just can't wait to see, what this future of gender and technology has for all of us in the decades to come. So it's all positive henceforth. Those millions of girls of examples, what I was sharing, the stories, they are so heartwarming, and how each one of them today has become a role model in herself. The way she's impacting her school environment, the way she's impacting her community, the way she's impacting the nation at large. So it's just uphill all the way from here.
Ma'am, Government of India is making better governance using the technology. Every time, whenever there is a new initiative, Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi announces artificial intelligence is the need of the hour for the governance. So how do you see the awareness levels of adopting or using technology among the women employees in the central government compared to the private industry, ma'am?
See, increasingly, this is something which no one can escape from, and women everywhere, whether in government or in the public sector, are becoming aware of it. And I think these categories of public sector or private sector are irrelevant. Women across the board, wherever they are located, are impacted by the technology, the internet, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. This has changed the way in which we look at the world. It is there in the most routine of transactions, and things like blockchain technology bring new dimensions to bear on very old problems. So to give you just one example, ownership of property and assets is very important for women. The last National Family Health Survey 5, the results were released a few months ago. It says that 43% women in India own an asset, that is either land or property of some kind, either singly or jointly. And as you know, that is very important for economic empowerment. That being the case, any improvement in the management of land records, in the improvement in transactions pertaining to land records, which have historically been very, very opaque in India, that would lead to lowering of transaction costs. It would also lead to an increase in trust levels. And when we talk about land and ownership, building trust is one of the most important constituents of that system. Here is where the things like blockchain technology become very important. So just to share an experience with you, so a few years ago, I was Commissioner and Director Municipal Administration in the government of Maharashtra. And one of the projects that I was running was the collection of the use of satellite mapping techniques to collect property data. And the numbers were enormous. There were about 25 million properties to be where property data was to be collected. Now, there are many human factors when you look at a project of this variety. And one of those human factors we came across was that there was a great deal of suspicion among the both the councillors and the administrators in these urban local bodies. One of their major concerns was, after a lot of initial resistance, we talked to them, what is the root of the problem? And many of them said privately that they were apprehensive whether the data would be secure, A, and B, once the data was digitized, would their political opponent be able to use that data against their interests? So this was a very genuine fear and a very genuine concern which needed to be dealt with. And this was about 5-6 years ago, and the use of blockchain technology was not so widespread. But today, when you look at how things are evolving and the pace at which land records are being digitized, yes, certainly, blockchain technology and artificial intelligence has a lot of potential to improve land management, to make land records much less opaque, and that builds trust. So anything which reduces the physical contact between a user of a government service and the office or the government employee, that is something which both reduces transaction costs and it helps to build trust. So this, I would say, has a lot of implications for women, in that if you can facilitate them to see that their land is secure, that there is no fraud, that they can use it as an asset to mortgage, all this becomes much, much simpler. For instance, recently you would have seen that there is talk going on about use of artificial intelligence to build an alternative credit rating mechanism, given that MSMEs in India are mostly self-financed. I think not more than 4% have access to formal sources of money from financial institutions. So it is very important to outreach, and the government's financial inclusion program in the last 10 years has progressed by leaps and bounds. The numbers of the number of Aadhaar linked bank accounts and so on have increased. If this alternative credit rating mechanism were able to use property information to generate a credit score for the woman, then definitely her application for a loan is that much easier to process. The obstacles are much less for when you're dealing with virtual data. All of us have seen in the course of the various changes that are happening in India now, how liberating it has been to use Aadhaar to make virtual payments all the time, and the unified payments interface has done wonders. It is in fact one of the greatest achievements of India in the last 10 years, and there has been a lot of interest and appetite. Other countries have expressed this interest. So I think we need to look at what the impact of these things would be on anyone who is less advantaged, and here definitely we count women. When we talk about the modern age is an age of information technology, and I think we need to keep sight of the fact that information is the most valuable asset of all. I have sat through many discussions on how can we empower women entrepreneurs, and there is a lot of talk about access to capital, access to markets, access to technology, but the one thing which we rarely talk about is access to information. So information is the most valuable tool of all. And if you look at various economic models, I think in the 1960s, the American economists shifted focus and they talk about knowledge management and they talk about total factor productivity, where the productivity is much more than can be explained by the land, labor, or capital. And I think in the case of women, the use of all these force multipliers is what I would call them, emerging technologies, helps to reduce information asymmetry. So when we look at what is the role of emerging technologies in the economy, then we look at both at how technology can be used to improve service delivery, which is a conversation which we have held, and so much has been talked about this in the last decade, and much has been done by the government. And the other thing is about making information available in the public domain to reduce information asymmetry, to make it a more equitable market for everyone. And when we look back at ourselves in the last 70 years, we see that the government has made available many instruments of affirmative action to address the underprivileged, those who are less well situated. I would include women also over here. So affirmative action definitely helps to create a more equitable society, but we must add to that the need for robust institutional mechanisms to provide information and make it a more information equal society. And here is where I think that the role of artificial intelligence and blockchain is very important.
My last question. Women today are pursuing their careers in technology and also joining IAS, that some of them have a definitely a massive advantage in understanding technology from the beginning of their career in the government. And some of them would like to pursue the technology while working in the public sector as well. There are two types of like this. These are the dreamers that we call in artificial intelligence. What is the a motivational message you would like to give it to them? Because public sector more going to be driven by the technology, as Honorable Minister advises everybody to adopt artificial intelligence responsibly in every function of the government. So today, 2 crores of our central government employees are little more. So have to adopt this technology and especially artificial intelligence. What is that you have to say to them?
First of all, I think that is the way of life. If I tell them, you please carry on with the artificial intelligence, I don't need to tell them, because it is part of their life. From the time they get up to, they perform all the duties, there is a smart person along with them in the name of smartphone, and that person is guiding them and doing a lot of things with them. But the most important thing I would say is, it is a way of life. It is, in fact, the other way. The people who are coming in are already coming in with that awareness, with that way. That is the way of life. It is the systems which, there's a passing generation. This generation has to understand that this is how those people, there's a whole new world there which exists for them. But it is very important to guide them to the real problems, engage with that technology for the real problems, and ensure that, say, for example, if I can use AI to ensure that mother takes enough iron, the pregnant mother takes enough iron, I can attend to the malnutrition part of it. Enough iron and enough nutrition required. No, if the AI, today you are using AI to, have your own kind of conversations with yourself. So when these young generations come into the systems, we should ask their skills to be deployed for these problems. Why is there a malnutrition? How do we change it? For example, how can there be a smart yoga teacher in a remote rural area so that you create a health awareness? So this is, for example, I'm in charge of Narmada district, Rajpipla in Gujarat. It's a backward district, and where the Statue of Unity is there. So there we face that, there's the villages are so remote, and sometimes connectivity, they're getting addressed, but it is going to take a little bit of time. So then the connectivity issue, then you are bringing some amount of connectivity got solved. So that led to a situation where we said, okay, well, let's start yoga classes for women. That's not to make them healthy exercise wise. That is one part of it, but we wanted them to come together. So we can't have yoga teacher everywhere. So we started looking at how the, so technology helps us to deliver yoga at their doorstep in their villages. Now they've started some yoga classes. I think this is just 10 days ago we started. So once they finish the yoga class, how do we ensure that they take something of moringa powder or moringa soup or something which is made of iron rich food before they go home? And this artificial intelligence creates a situation, or a smartphone creates a situation where you can deliver anytime anything which you want as a skill, and that will help. And at the same time, it can also be a feedback mechanism, whether how many women came, how many engaged, how many took, how much of exchange went on. You can record, you can send those videos, you can have literally an exchange which is almost concurrent. So there is no experiment, result and feedback. These are all existing in the same space at the same time. This advantage of the technology, along with AI, can help us actually every challenge which is present. Every challenge. There's nothing which we can not do with this. So I really feel that whether it is skill development, whether it is malnutrition scheme to attend to malnutrition, or it is to have a preventive healthcare or a punitive healthcare. Today you can do all in using technology and AI. And I think that's where, as government, I think government has been on the front foot batting on this. I don't think any other country has this kind of digital payment system. I think we all use digital payment. There is a credit record being created for these Paytms or BMAPs or UPIs or whatever. And that is going to be the credible record for raising debt in the near future from microfinances. So I think it's there. I mean, government is already there in this space and very big way. The health also, e-health, under Ayushman Bharat, e-health programs, or for that matter, smart class programs. I think it's now government realizes, in fact, none of us have any papers. You said, please move the paper. These are the 2 printouts I have on my table. I don't have files if you see. I mean, I have files in my office. I mean, government office means people will have all files. We have a completely intelligent system of e-file, and there is no paper wastage. See, we work mostly on WhatsApp and mail and co-app and, all kinds of, I don't think we all work on anymore on papers. I mean, I think so many trees must be really smiling at us. So I think we're done with that kind of working. So one is the way of working has changed, and that has changed for us, the old generation. For the new generation, they come in with that tool. So there is no question. Only aligning them to the real problems of India and solving it. So I would rather say that you don't need to go to the site to check something like a British Raj. Rather, the technology can deliver it. You can know where your city is growing. You don't need to go and see or travel by a car to see it. You don't need to see whether there is flooding in a particular area. If you have a complete system of CCTV cameras which are intelligent enough, you don't need to have an incident management system here. It can be anywhere else, and still the incident can be managed here. I think now there is no end to what there is no hindrance in government to do that kind of work. It's a very small investment government needs to do, and it is very aware of it and doing it, and very big results are coming in. So I think it's wonderful. I don't think we ever found it as being in government, we are not able to use technology. That isn't the case. It will take some time to completely become super smart, because government means it caters to, it's a such huge organization, super smart in that space. It will happen, and it is happening. So I think it's I can say today I have the biggest database of water probably in the world. In-house developed. I mean, we had some professionals coming in and develop it. We didn't. We used the open source, and there's no question of. So this has helped us, and it is possible now because there are skilled youngsters, there are motivated youngsters, and you have the experience coming from people like us. If these two meet, you give the best product because you are talking from all dimensions of the problem.
Thank you, ma'am. My last question to Shweta, Khurana. Government of India, especially Ministry of Education, wants to train the students from their schooling itself to artificial intelligence. At the same time, many state governments in India also wanted to encourage the students to adopt artificial intelligence as one of the subjects from the beginning itself. As part of your mission with the Intel, how do you see your alignment with the government's vision in transforming the future of the kids, youngsters, and other graduates in this? If you can, please.
So if you ask me, how does it really align with the government vision? I think it aligns perfectly, because both the government and Intel as a corporation wants to build an AI-ready generation in India. We think that is how India would develop, and that is what would eventually support the transformation of using AI as a tool for India's economy. But going a step further, when we talk about children in schools, vocational colleges, in the entire education stream, there is another sensitivity which we are trying to reinforce, which is understand both the advantages and the pitfalls of an emerging technology. There is a lot of conversation which happens around gender bias, how AI bots, voice assistants reinforce gender bias. What is the diversity quotient in using emerging technologies? The fact today is globally, if women, girls are not a part of the conversation, they would never get recorded into the new algorithms which are being created, the new codes which are being written. So during our entire conversation with the government, which we've had both at the central and at the state level, we try and figure out that not the youth of India should not just learn the skill set, which is an imperative, like a skill set of AI, but also understand the mindset of how to really use emerging technology like AI. What are the pitfalls? How do I take care of diversity issues, biases? How do I make sure that I'm fair and responsible when I'm building an AI solution to solve a problem I see around me? So those are the conversations we encourage in almost an equal mode as much as learning the technology itself. And that is where I say it's a perfect partnership. Our programs like Responsible AI for Youth are focused extremely on being diverse, on being inclusive in nature.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, my last question, ma'am. There is an increased demand for teaching or training secondary school students from the school itself and above over the technology, especially artificial intelligence, so that they can connect with the modern society, and when they grow up, they will be future ready. Your personal views of that?
See, technologies, when you talk about school education and higher education, they're two different kettles of fish. So in school education, I would still say that the physical presence of the teacher is very important. No doubt, the teaching experience can be improved with the availability of online teaching aids, but you would still need the teacher to make that available. But when you look at higher education, and in the last 10 years, actually, India has undergone a transformation. When you look at higher education figures, since 2018 onwards, the gross enrollment ratio, that basically means how many women in the age group, how many students in the age group of 18 to 23 are enrolled in an institution of higher learning, you find that more women than men students are enrolled. So it's about 27% women students as opposed to 26.9% male students. And this has been the case since 2018. 43% of those enrolled in STEM disciplines, that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are women. Now, I think that this says something very remarkable about Indian society. And when you look at the figures for other much richer countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, you find that the figures are much lower. It's like 32%, 34%. In India, it's 43%. So to my mind, what it indicates is that women are increasingly comfortable with using technology. And yes, that completely opens the market for use of online education tools and digital technologies for higher education. In fact, this entire course that I talked about, the one which the IIM Bangalore is has been doing, that is through MOOCs. That's the massive open online courses. So, incidentally, they are now launching a version in Hindi also to reach out to women in tier 2 and tier 3 cities and in rural areas. So definitely online teaching tools for higher education is great. It has to be done. And increasingly we have seen how companies which have used these tools, they have grown and grown in the Indian market. So EdTech is a very major sector of the Indian economy as of now.
With this, I conclude today's panel discussion on top doers, dreamers, and drivers in artificial intelligence. I would like to thank Thara, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India; Meeta Rajivlochan, Member Secretary, National Commission for Women, Government of India; and Shweta, Khurana, Director, ETGA, Government Partnerships and Initiatives, Global Government Affairs Group, Intel, for joining the panel discussion and sharing their insights on the special occasion of International Women's Day. Thank you very much.